All right, everybody, welcome to a special, and I mean special, episode of Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard. We have the one, the only Rick Hoffman in the house. You know him from Suits, from Billions, from a lot of his great work. You will also know him tonight, though, as a fed up, diehard Giants fan. So we're going to talk to Rick and get his thoughts on the franchise you all know and love and want to see turn around, but is seeing some of its darkest days right now. We're going to diagnose what's going wrong, get into the past, present, and future of the organization. So grateful to Rick for joining us. Reminder here on the Believe Network and on the Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard YouTube channel, we are brought to you by MyBookie, Boom Chaga, and Estate 98 Coffee. MyBookie rolling out the red carpet for sports bettors this football season. Almost a 55% hit rate on my picks this regular season against the spread, picking every game of the year. You're going to go to that link, mybookie.ag. Use my promo code PATSPICKS and get a 50% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, all the way up to $1,000, plus a $10 casino chip. MyBookie, bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Also brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and night and immediately feel the difference. I personally feel a post-workout like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your order. Use the code TalkinBall25 or access it through the QR code on your screen, and you'll get 25% off your first order on the subscribe and save option. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. And last but not least, brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, a specialty coffee concentrate. Great for when you want to make a quick cup of coffee and skip the lines. Takes me less than 10 seconds to make a delicious Estate 98 iced or hot coffee. It's great as a mixer for espresso martinis. And each bottle makes up to 16 cups. Go to estate98.com/talkinball to get an exclusive 80% off your first order. That's estate98.com/talkinball. And that's what we're here to do tonight, is to talk ball with my good friend, Rick Hoffman. Rick, thank you so much for spending the time and joining me on Talkin Ball, man. Really a thrill to have you on.
Well, Pat, first of all, we talked about this, and I'm a little upset you're not calling me by the name I would like you, which is Vinny Cutlets, the cousin of Tommy. And that's what I'd like from the rest of this podcast. That is how I'd like to be addressed.
You got it. Vinny Cutlets it is.
Vinny Cutlets. As I was saying to you when I got on here, it's surreal because I've come to you this year when I found you on YouTube for just therapy, just real honest therapy after every single game of chaos and frustration and lies and arrogance. And whether it be after the game or I would catch it the next morning, I would at least feel like I'm not completely crazy. And so thank you. And the fact that I'm now here in a window with you is an honor.
Oh, you're most welcome. And I'm glad that, because when you're watching this much bad football and you're diagnosing it and you're being critical and it's happening week after week, you do get feedback from people of enough, right? We want to hear something positive. We want to hear how the building blocks are happening. We want to hear the behind the scenes that's encouraging. But sometimes, Rick, what people need to do is to see how the sausage is made. It's not always going to be pretty. And with the Giants right now, like, we've seen good football from them over the years. I'm sure your fandom started with and includes some of those highs, right? Some of the highs of the Giants days, the teams that you revered, the qualities that they possessed. And the fact is, you just don't see it in the modern Giants. You don't see it in how the organization is structured and how it's run and how the team plays on the field. I want to know from you, let's start at the beginning. Where did your Giants passion begin? How did you become a Giants fan? Why are you so passionate about this franchise that you're coming into Talkin Ball after these games for therapy?
I bought in at the lows. I bought in 1979. So I'm 94 years old. I basically, my dad, diehard fan, and really loved the Giants for the right reasons. And when I say right reasons, they had been such a losing organization, but there was character underneath it. There was
Mm,
heart, but not just in the players, in the management, ownership, all the way fish head down. It was all solid. So even their losing days, when I came in to be a fan, when I, after going through my not caring about football, loving the Pittsburgh Steelers because of the colors of their uniform, and then went to a Giant game with my father, that was it. I became in love with New York football. There is something so electric, as everybody who's watching and everyone who knows what it's like to be a New York fan. And that's that. I mean, it was just a wonderful, wonderful drug every Sunday, that excitement, Christmas morning, every Sunday, getting up at knowing mostly at 1 o'clock because there were no flex games at the time. It was either 1 or 4, and the Giants were terrible. There was never a Monday
no,
night game.
no Red Zone Network, Rick. Come on.
Exactly, no Red Zone Network. And I would. It was an amazing day, and football was
Yeah.
my weekend, and they sucked, but there was a building process. There was a
Mm,
consistency in what they said, promised, and how they played on the field. And I got to watch from 79. Now try to pick. Now, if anybody doesn't know, which I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that don't, you're watching a team that was, bad. And then it changed over a coach that was so larger than life, that would speak no matter whether he didn't care how he came across. That was familiar to me because of my family. And
mm.
and he would, doesn't matter, every press conference was always, you knew he was going to say something true, lose or win. And then each year, I mean, there was some trying times, but you held in there because you liked them as
Yeah.
people.
You could identify with their approach.
So as 80, 81, 82, close game. I remember heartbreaking. Raphael Septian kicks the field goal. Dallas wins. Well, another year, the heartbreaking loss to freaking whatever it was. There were just so many moments. I don't want to bore everybody. And then slowly, 84, 85, when of course, with Landetta's whiff, and then at Soldier Field. Next year, they win the Super Bowl, and you feel like you were that. I mean, forever, Giants done. And you lived with them, and you
Mm-hmm.
watched because you knew every player. You saw them bring on a new player. They were slowly building, and so that's that. As far as how I became in
Yeah,
to the Giants.
that's cool. And buying in when they were down is the key there. The loyalty element, right? The love of the uniform and of the team and of the franchise before they won, not riding the bandwagon or anything like that. So, what would you say is the key element right now that, when you identified with what I was calling out on here and when you found a like mind to this conversation, what were the elements of this current losing team and the way they're losing and the way they're operating that contrasted so starkly from the Giants you fell in love with? Like, what is the most
Well,
unrecognizable part of them
well,
now?
well. I mean, so I found you this year. Now, I have been going through major over such an overused word, and it's so not the case. But in the sense of a very surface sense of trauma as a football fan for years, because I think it really started once Jerry Reese left, and then Tom slowly but surely. It was Tom Coughlin left.
Yeah.
These were all people, by the way, up until Coughlin leaving, they all, when you would watch them speak, whether it be at press conferences or be behind the scenes, they were all grassroots type of people. They weren't covering themselves. They were not polished. They were not what they are now in every bit of the triangle: owner, GM, coach. Too polished. I don't even recognize them as the Giants now.
Wow.
It's not New York Giants football anymore. I don't know these people personally. I am sure all of them are lovely. However, Mara, I don't know how he does his everyday business. I can guess someone who has, has a lot of people working with him, for him. I'm sure he has his voice, but I know there has been a lack of questioning, looking himself in the mirror. What's happening with, like, in other words, where is the self-reflection?
Right.
This is now happening way too many times. Too many times.
It's like
Players
no, sorry, go ahead. I interrupted you.
No. Because I used to, John Mara, because his father, my God rest his soul. That man was, George Young. They couldn't be polished. There was no chance. They were just themselves. And Mara, somehow, I just feel, my opinion, I could be so wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. I think he's got a lot of yes people in there that have no freaking clue what they're doing.
That's what I was going to say. Sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say that the problem starts with having too many people in the room nodding their heads rather than questioning what's being said. And I say this a lot, but the Giants keep reinforcing it. They are so bad at analyzing themselves and reflecting on who they are and what's wrong. They do the thing. This is an image, but this has happened with them. I can tell you it's happened. They're the kind of team that, and they're not the only one, but Rick, picture like a whiteboard and picture them, let's say, with their secondary, their defense up on the board. And when they select Deonte Banks, let's say in the draft, it's like they put a check mark or an X through the one cornerback slot. And they're like, okay, we filled that. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Right? Like, you took that player.
Yeah.
You added them to the depth chart and they're competing. You didn't fix corner. You don't know if you fixed corner.
So the triangle, the one piece of the triangle with Mara, then you have a GM. And look, man, I'm not, like I said, I'm sure these people, as parents, as friend, whatever, that's not great. But you don't come into mid-year in the bye week after that, like, atrociousness, and the first thing you say, let's not even talk about Hard Knocks, but you don't sit down and say, well, we had a good practice today. Oh, really? Really? Wait a second. Hold on one second. Did they have a good? Thank God, dude. All right. Break, lunch. What are you, fucking nuts?
And here's the insult. Here's the more frustrating part about that too, or the most frustrating part about that. That's insulting to Giants fans.
No shit.
That is, and this is what you're saying, but like, so as a reporter, when we're there sitting there and our job is to listen and to ask questions back, to kind of push back or to clarify whatever it is, there's times where you're saying to yourself, okay, like you're a person sitting there, but it's not personal to you. You're really a conduit to the fans and the fan base, and you're trying to bring information and context and information to people. When comments like that are made, I get personally frustrated, but I'm not mad because they said it to me. I'm angry because that is an insulting comment to a human being, whether it's to me, whether it's to you, Rick Hoffman, whether it's to some of the people in here, Jacob, Joe, Savage, Steve, Ken, everyone who's in here waiting to ask questions and has comments in here, Rick, it is them telling you, we're pissing on you and telling you it's raining. Like that's what it is.
Sure. That's a very nice way of putting it. It's a very nice way of putting it. It's almost sociopathic is what it is, because I've watched this guy who, once again, I will say, I don't know him,
right?
But I would assume when you're on Hard Knocks, you're giving your best performance, knowing you're being filmed. So we're talking about a guy who knows he's being filmed and acting like he is somewhat of a sniveling, like, gossip columnist to another owner or whoever he was talking to about his own quarterback that he paid $42 million to. Witnessing a conversation between him and John Mara saying, okay, if we lose him, I'm really going to lose sleep. Now, if that in itself is, let's take that separately between the two people. No acknowledgement of that, how he handled it. I heard the phone conversation. Saquon Barkley is a great dude. He has humility, integrity, and the guy deserves everything he's gotten. The guy finally deserved to be on a team that knows what they're doing. Right?
No doubt.
And it's like, how do you lose that? That's who he was when he was with us. And it's like, he doesn't even speak in that meeting about any of those mishaps at all. He is there in ultimately playing denial game. John Mara was ultimately, everybody took that from Hard Knocks going, damn, that dude's going to be, if he doesn't handle this right, doesn't that say you're out? Like, you handle this, not only let go of him, give him to Philly, and he's doing what he's doing now. It's the worst. It's like the worst storm you could possibly be in the middle of, and somehow he's like, they had a good practice today. So what's the problem? What is it? Yeah, I made a couple of mistakes. I have time for 3 more questions. Guy who always enables me. Thank you for that one. Good. Another guy who doesn't make me be honest with anyone. Okay, great. Thanks, guys.
You're pulling the curtain back. That's the reality. That's the reality. You're being honest. You're seeing through it. You're seeing how they operate. So yeah, we're going to continue to get into all of this. Like I said, I'm so thrilled you're here. Going to get to a couple of questions and comments here. That'll get us into some of the other topics we're going to talk about. We'll continue to dive into all of these overreaching topics about the Giants and their operations. Guys, if you have a question for me, if you have a question for Rick, please ask it in the comments section. Remember, if you purchase a super chat or super sticker, it'll be elevated to the top of the queue. We're looking forward to this conversation, already off and rolling, having a lot of fun here. So Jacob Petruzzi reminds everybody to smash that like button and subscribe for the best reporter in the business. Appreciate you, Jacob. Thank you so much. Joe says we have big needs with this team, but if we can't get a top quarterback in the draft, how about a corner? Our quarterback situation is terrible, though, and I hate the way Joe Shane handled that situation, and word gets out. So, Rick, let me put this to you now. Let's talk about this quickly. Obviously, the Giants need a quarterback, but if they're not going to draft a quarterback at the top of the draft, do you like going corner there, or would you rather see them attack, say, the offensive or defensive line with an Abdul Carter or somebody else like that?
I think, and this is why it's such a mistake to have me on, because I have 18 different thoughts going on at the same time. And earlier on, you had asked me a question that I didn't answer. When it comes to the drafting, in the sense of how that's progressed throughout the last 10 years after Jerry Reese, there was no build. If you notice back when they were in any of this up until the Super Bowl years, and even after a little bit, there was a build. Their drafts were boring. You know what I mean by boring? It was all line. It was all line. Offense, defense, line. They were building their team. So every time I hear, hey, what do you think about this receiver, man? Like, this guy is a speed demon. He can really, yeah. Hut, hike, oh, sack. I guess that speed demon it was really great to get that guy. Like, everybody always complains, enough with the offensive line. Will you stop talking? It's not the offensive. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Sorry. We need 6 boring drafts. You don't notice the other teams throughout those drafts. You don't notice when, the Minnesota Vikings are drafting an OL, but that's what they're doing. And they keep drafting those boring players. Nobody that's fun to watch, just the meat. We haven't done that in years. So you asked me about, should we get a QB? I don't know, dude. Because we don't have the right people who understand what it's like to build a team from the ground up.
No, that's really insightful. It's interesting you said that because today for the Daily News, I was working on a story. So the Titans just hired their general manager. They hold the #1 pick. They hired Mike Borgonzi from the Kansas City Chiefs, but they have a head of football operations named Chad Brinker. And essentially, if you watch their press conference, you can tell the GM's not going to have really any power. The head of football operations has the final say. Yeah. There was a really interesting moment, Rick, where the GM was going on and on about how important it is to build your lines. And he mentioned even how the Chiefs, one year that they got to the Super Bowl and lost to the Bucs, their line was not as strong and they were banged up. And so the GM is saying how important the lines are. The head of football operations jumps in and says, well, yeah, that's important, but like also we need speed and explosiveness. And I'm going like this. Oh my God. They're doomed to fail because it's exactly what you're just saying. It was almost like a Hard Knock scene. It was like real life right in front of your face. The conversation of so for example, it was like being in the Chargers room if someone told Jim Harbaugh, we should take Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze. And he says, no, we're taking Joe Alt. We're going to get a tackle and we're going to put him on the line and we're going to go to the playoffs. Right?
Yeah. Right.
Like that's, and so, yeah.
Because those types of, John Madden was so, it's unfortunate because now I'm going to sound old again and it's just the way it is. Maybe it's the fact that they don't, because look at basketball now. Everything's throwing threes. It's not the same game as it used to be, right? Like with the hard-nosed defense, really it's just a shooting contest for a lot of the season, right? So, I mean, there is some good defense, but you know what I mean, how it's changed. And it feels to me like that's what's happening. It's creeping in to football in the sense of, yeah, let's get this guy's like a speed demon. And this guy, what's his name? Oh yeah, his name is Revis Island. We should get that. How about you get like Leonard Marshall? How about you get Carl freaking Banks? Line up your rush and then set up your wall. And then you can talk about having time for a quarterback to actually take 2 steps back to throw to your weapon that you want so badly. I mean, I don't get it. I don't.
It's really well said.
Well, what's the argument here? Please, someone argue with me. No, man, you need a guy who could like scoot out of the rush, who could throw it. It doesn't matter if you get a good quarterback; they can run around it. You know what I mean? Roll out. No, you can't. No, they usually get injured and they're done for the season. Am I a little bitter? I'm a little bitter right now.
It's warranted, and it's warranted, and also you're hitting the nail on the head. Here's the scary part about the Giants is that they are a team that, like you said, there's a part of them that is not appropriately addressing these issues. They also now, though, to me, the most concerning part is they have now retained a general manager and a structure who has demonstrated that they don't know what they're doing when they pick these positions. Like that to me is the scary thing, right? Because like people say, like if you said, well, they need to invest more in the lines. The Giants' argument back would be, well, we drafted Evan Neal, number 7. We drafted John Michael Schmitz in the top of the second round. And then the response to that would be, yeah, but neither of them are good enough, right? So
and not enough. And it's not about one. I looked at these drafts back in the day, and it was painful to watch. Well, I'm a hypocrite because I'm like, why can't we get a receiver, Jerry Reese? What are you doing picking this old lineman? What, another one? Oh, come on. It turns out it's like, I mean, like, could you not have a better Chris Snee? And like it was like, it just makes sense. And nothing else seems to.
Snee, I think, is like if you're someone trying to hang your hat on some sliver of hope in the current structure, and again, everybody knows my feeling on where they're at right now, but Snee's presence in the front office and his potential influence on their prioritization of those positions and their selection of those positions, I would say, is like it's like your last light in the tunnel right now of the current
Is that
structure.
really? He's like like just that last of what feels like real, not polished kind of, you know what I mean? Like I described earlier, non-polished, tell it like it is guy.
Correct. He's a tell it like it is guy. He knows what it looks like,
right?
And he's a bridge from the Giants' greatness of the past to the present. And his presence in the organization in this capacity is overdue. Should have happened several years ago.
Absolutely.
They need more of guys like him in there and involved. I mean, when I would say this too, and not that everything Michael Strahan says is gospel, but when Strahan took a shot at Joe Shea in the Giants front office, on Fox, that was really something. And that tells you where, yes. And, going back to when they were honoring all of the former great players in the early part of this 100th season, and there was that, Lawrence Taylor and these guys making comments about, man, 11 of us could go out on the field and we would look better than this team.
I loved when he said that.
Like that was, you have to listen to that. Like I said, Rick, the other day, they should convene a roundtable of all the great Giants greats and just listen to them. Seriously. Like that's where they're at. They should have Leonard Marshall sitting in there and saying, this guy's not tough enough. This guy's not big enough. This guy doesn't work hard enough. And you should write it all down and follow it because those guys know what it freaking looks like. They know
they're all grizzly. Like. They're grizzly. Get it done. Get your hands dirty. No polish. They just clobber.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about, I just don't feel, and this has nothing to, like, I'm going to say it again. It's my opinion, and my opinion is just as worthless as everyone else's. But Joe Shane does not seem to have that in him when it comes to that focus on the players he's picking. I don't see it in him. I didn't see, and when I say see it, I meant when he's literally performing his best as an GM on a cable show, and then his press conference. Nothing makes me feel like another year. Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
That's who I
want. Well, and I hate to say it like this, but I think it's true. when John Mara says he's so impressed by the process behind the scenes of how they run the draft and free agency,
I
I
mean,
think
that's what.
he's
Sorry, keep going.
judging him on what it looks like compared to Gettleman. And right. So
Yep.
like, I think
Get
that's
me
how
started
he's
on that.
judging. I think that's how he's judging it. Well, funny enough, I mean, Shane's done such a bad job. He's helping Gettleman's legacy as Saquon runs wild as the generational talent.
I know.
But that's what it
By
looks
the way,
like to me.
Gettleman, but not to, I keep jumping on you.
No, please
Gettleman,
do.
by the
Please
way,
do.
squeeze in about Gettleman. I understand Mara's getting of Gettleman because Gettleman, but this was Gettleman in his later. He was arrogant. He came in with just not wanting to listen to anybody. So, come on, you can't hire a guy like that.
No.
He made everybody like he was patronizing everybody. I would hear him on the NFL Network. I'm like, this guy's on our team? What a dick.
Yep. No, for sure. And that was those qualities seep into how a place performs and operates, how people treat each other. The locker room feels it, and it reflects in the team's performance. Frankly, we have Francis, who continues the draft conversation and says Giants will be trash under Dable again. Unfortunately, Ken says call me crazy, but we can fix this quickly. Draft Abdul Carter, sign DJ Reed to be cornerback 1. Bring back BJ Hill, move Evan Neal to right guard, or sign Mekhi Becton and take a developmental QB in round 2. Ken, I like that you're thinking of adding players. I don't think that's a quick fix. I do think, though, you're thinking in the right direction as far as stacking players at important positions. This is one I wanted to get to too, Rick. Savage Steve said, I feel like the Giants are going to get Shedeur Sanders no matter what. I asked this in the context of, I brought up the Titans earlier. So the Titans, the long and short of what their head of football operations said is that we'll take a generational talent at 1 if he's there. But what I would really love to do is have a lot of draft picks, like 30 draft picks, the next 3 drafts to stock our roster. So that's him saying we would love to trade back and get more picks. Okay. So I think the number 1 pick is open for business. So you started answering it too about how you feel like the line should be the priority. But I'm wondering from your vantage point as a Giants fan,
wrong. But don't get me wrong.
Should they trade up for that? Should they try to go up and get a quarterback there to 1 if it's open?
How could you say no to Shedeur Sanders, but just know that he could end up with a knee injury because they can't protect him. They don't have the lines. So, yeah, are you kidding? The kid in me, I would love it. Absolutely. Oh, that's right. He has to constantly run for his life and potentially risk a crappy first 3 years getting injured. Okay, I'll go with it. It's what we have right now. So what else am I going to say? Don't get Shedeur. But I mean, they're so far gone, Pat. This isn't nobody please. You could say it, but to me, it's like when you say quick fix, I mean, it's like mentioning like a really like crazy ex I had.
That's too good. That's too good.
Quick
all right.
fix.
So Barry says, what's up, Pat? Giant schedule is brutal. Roster isn't that good. Hope the GM and coach won't be grasping at straws this year. I feel it's do or die for them. Dan says, we need Lewis Litt in the Giants front office. I trust him more than Joe Shane. Love it.
Hell yeah. Who is that? I'm with you, Dan. If we were living in that imaginary world.
That's right.
I'm never getting Giants tickets. No, I'm never going to get. The Giants are never giving me tickets if any of them see this.
When's the last game you've been to?
For Giants? So I have a son, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like kind of waiting for the right. It's not. So I want them to be bad, Pat. I will be taking him to a game where they're bad, but not like this bad. This bad, he'll like the other team. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
These aren't the Giants right now.
I get
And
that. I get that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have not been to a game with him proudly for the last 3-4 years. We watch other teams from New York. I go to New York games with him. I'm waiting. I tell him, I'm honest with him. I say, listen, right now they're so bad, it will be a sad experience. There'll be nothing happy, not even the food.
It's so you're joking about, they're never going to give me tickets or have me back, but I think that what makes a good organization, right, would be an organization that would appreciate having their feet held to the fire and be held accountable. Like one thing I saw on Instagram actually just today. So, Matthew Berry, the talented Mr. Roto, he's like fantasy football. He's with NBC
Heard of him.
Sports. He used to be with
I've heard of him.
ESPN, and he came on our show a couple weeks ago. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, he's a diehard Washington and Commanders fan, and
Yeah.
he goes on social media a lot over the years. And of course, they were bad for so long and dysfunctional and laughable and embarrassing. And he would always do videos of, what am I watching? What is going on here? Like, this has to change, that has to change. And he was critical, and it was fun. Like, we're being fun, but it was enough of this. We can't be known for this. This is a proud franchise, our tradition. I don't see it here. Right. So they have new ownership, obviously, now, which is a part of the reason why this is happening. But now that they're winning, they sent him like a care package, and it had Hail to the Commanders or something t-shirt and a hat, and it had a handwritten note, and it said, like, thanks for your passion and for sticking by us and supporting us all for all these years. The best is yet to come. That is how you treat fans who criticize your organization because they love it. So I would say to the Giants, in response to you saying, oh, I'm never seeing tickets off of this, I would say, Rick's just holding you accountable so you start winning again. So it put a smile on his face on Sundays instead of a frown.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you for that. You'll come with me if they give me 2. or
three, right?
Three, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously. So to answer, by the way, did we miss the answer to that to Dan's question, or was it that he was just saying something funny about the show?
Oh yeah, he said Lewis. Yeah, we need Lewis Litt in the front office.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
Lewis does get things done. I mean, he does get things done, right? Like, it's not always the outcome everyone's expecting.
You can never question hard work. That's for sure with that character. He was the hardest worker there was. He was he was the little man. He was Joe Morris. Joe Morris, no? He was Phil McConkey.
Yeah. Grinder.
Phil McConkey, Mark Bavaro. Where are those guys? Where they're there? They're there. They're just on other teams. They're on other teams.
Did you have a favorite Giant?
Well, any Giant fan that's as like old as I am, the favorite Giant's LT. So you go, all right, we got LT, and then we move on to like there was so many fun ones, like Pepper Johnson was like, when there were just some interesting personalities. JPP, Justin Tuck, OC, Strahan was always, he's a legend. But older, I loved Ernest Gray. Like, we're talking like,
Wow.
Yeah, or Gary Reasons, man. That guy was made of cement.
I love it.
Like Ronnie Lott. But Jesus. So I loved them all, man. I was just a huge Giants drug addict. What do we got there on the let's go to, are there any risque questions that we're trying to?
Yeah, let's see. Well, Chris Peace said, Chris is a regular here. Hey, Chris. He says, hey, Pat, I loved Rick in Suits. He became one of my favorite characters in that show. And now I find out he's a Giants fan.
Oh my
Too
God.
Good to be true.
Chris, how are you, man? Nice to meet you via YouTube.
Let's see. Daniel says, Pat and Rick, can you guys give us Giants fans any encouraging words? Is it going to be years before this team is competitive? Rick, do you see anything that you can say that's encouraging about where the Giants can go from here? Maybe there's players on the team that you like watching or that you feel good about. Not to feed you an answer, but it is a 3-win team. So
that's like asking me when Phil Jackson was the GM of the Knicks, do I see any like something soon?
Whoo, a Phil Jackson comp. Oh boy.
How long did it take to fix that freaking 18 million car collision?
Yeah.
And that's nothing. Phil Jackson is the best coach there is. He just completely, he literally mangled the Knicks and cost them how long? A decade and a half of pain and suffering. I mean, Porzingis, good pick. Absolutely good pick.
Yeah.
But, so that's whenever Phil Jackson left the Knicks, how long did it take for the Knicks to be where they are now? That's the time I give the Giants. I don't know if football years equal the same as basketball, so I don't know. But Mara needs to look himself in the mirror.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question in terms of, I don't know if this is encouraging, but one thing I've noticed about the Giants this year, being in the locker room every day, they did not have a strong culture and a strong amount of leadership. And I look at Washington, and yes, they have a quarterback and they changed ownership, which obviously is a huge thing. And the Giants clearly aren't going to replicate that. But Rick, one thing that Washington did well this year is they brought in guys who will walk into the locker room and change how it feels, how the young players act. Guys like Bobby Wagner, Zach Ertz, Frankie Louvu, just like veterans with experience who can show people the way. My question to you is, you've worked with talented people. You're a talented person yourself. You've worked with great casts and been a part of great casts. What qualities, I don't know if it's translatable necessarily as different businesses, but what qualities do you notice in a good culture? Like when a group comes together, what qualities are the most valuable for people to have to work together well? Because I do think, even though acting and Hollywood versus sports and football are very different, I do think that people respond to people in similar ways. So I'm wondering if you can share that with us. Like, what does a good culture look like to you when a group of people tries to create something together and it happens successfully?
Well, everybody knew Saquon Barkley was that in the locker room for the Giants. The only person who didn't was Joe Shane. And I would say the reason he is now doing what he was doing in the Giants locker room with Philadelphia, that's a guy who was going to get a record and decided it's better for my team. I don't. It's a guy who then was going to get his second touchdown in the when they were playing, not just this last week, the one before that, where he
Yep.
a time run. And his teammates were like, "Why didn't you get it? Why didn't you go?" But there was so much respect for him, his humility. These are words. Actors, not much of it. Athletes, not much of it. Not now. Maybe it used to be. But you get it with spoiled actors all over the place. They didn't struggle, or they don't know what struggle is. They think it's meant to be for them. Same with players that play sports. That's the difference. It's the ones that, either have gone through something in their lives where they know, they appreciate. They don't say gratitude. They just have it.
So you're pointing out too, when you find someone who has that, it's that much more precious.
The 2 million is priceless, Joe.
Well said. Let's see. John F says, Rick calling himself old. I started the last year of Earl Morale just before the Tarkenton trade. That was the worst period before this one. 1979 was bad though.
Yes, it was.
Good stuff, John.
Yes, it was.
Good stuff.
John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good, John. Let's see. Jackson asks if J.K. Dobbins, the running back from the Chargers, is a potential suitable running back for the Giants. I would say, here's what I would answer to that, Jackson. And this is to piggyback off of what Rick was just saying with Saquon. The scary part and the frightening part about the Giants is that they let Saquon go over those couple million to sign Devin Singletary. They draft Tyrone Tracy in the 5th round, who is a good 5th round pick. But guess what, Rick? The Giants still need a running back. They still need a running back off of all of that. That's something that's not even being talked about enough, that I'm going to bring that up as the Eagles keep going here. Can you believe that? They now need another one.
What do you mean, Pat? They got Motor. What's up with the nicknames they're giving people that you haven't earned it yet? Daves, like, hey, how about you give the guy the nickname after you win? All the other reporters, hey, Daves, answer this question. Oh, sorry, Daves. And then Daves is like, yeah, Motor had a good practice. Hey, can Motor gain 6 yards? What motor are we talking about? My metabolism?
Rick, I'll tell you what. I stand there and I don't know how to put this. Some days you feel more emboldened than others, right? Like to do the job the way you know it needs to be done. There are some days where I want to be delicate about this. There are some days where there are so many people around me who are playing along together with that charade that I almost feel pressured into, how do I say this? It's like, I know the second I start asking a totally legitimate question, I'm getting side-eyed and stared at and mocked by that crew. Does that make sense?
That's like Hollywood. It's like Hollywood. Wait, honesty? Wait, what? Did he just ask a question that might piss off Daves? Did he just say something that might piss off Daves? Oh my God, he just pissed off Daves. He said Daves. It's fucking ridiculous.
It is. And you don't get me started on the optics. All right. Chris Peace says, oh, this is good.
Pat, hey, man, listen. And I like when certain people that write in on here and they go, hey, Pat, you have a vendetta against the Giants, bro. That's not cool, Pat. Because Pat, because you can see Pat with his private jet is getting, like, somehow he's what's the reward there? Tell me what the reward is for Pat having some outside agenda for speaking honestly about the state of the New York Giants. Just please. I'd love to. I honestly would love to have a discussion about that. Is there anybody there that's saying it still? I was hoping maybe one of them were, so we can hear them elaborate of how they think you have an agenda.
Oh, interesting. It hasn't gotten to me yet. If it does,
so let's make sure because I want to hear their thinking.
Yeah, I will say this. My best vantage point is it comes from some people who find out that when they find out I'm from Philadelphia originally, they decide that I professionally work to dump on the Giants, like on the Eagles' behalf or something. They don't know that I went to school for this, and that when I was at Notre Dame, I had to sit in the press box at Notre Dame as a student and conduct myself as a professional and not even root for the school I went to, and that I've been training for this for 25 years. And that when I covered the Rangers, I was at a Winter Classic at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, feeling nothing inside because my fandom for everything was gone, and hating that my fandom for everything was gone, but knowing it's a part of the job. They don't know that when I was covering the Rangers, I was in Philly one time And I think I might have told this story on here once. I was after a playoff game doing a hit for SNY on TV in the seats. And there were some drunk Flyers fans still up in one of the suites. They saw me down there and I had on a blue dress shirt button down, which is very standard color for a button down, and a red tie. And because I was wearing those colors, they assumed, rightfully, that I had come down from New York for the game. I was heckled mercilessly for 15 minutes by Philadelphia fans calling me an asshole, get the hell out of here, go back to New York. And I'm a Philadelphia guy. And so, you get it from that side, from this side.
You can't win. But you can't win.
We will push back for sure. When
it's not. I just would love. I want to be enlightened by that type of thinking. I'd be curious.
If anybody has that kind of opinion here, and you want to jump to the top of the chat, you put in a cheap super chat there, and we'll get to that first. Otherwise, I'll get to it down in the queue. Chris Peace also says Pat should go mudding with Rick.
Yeah.
Nice.
Let's because you know how much the real guy who isn't really. I love mudding. I also love cats, even though I'm allergic to them. What else am I? The character. Oh, you want to know what's funny? By the way, mudding. I did try it once, and I got allergic and broke out in hives. But also, and I will also say that as far as the character goes, it wasn't just mudding that I was going to say something. It had to do with oh my God, what was it? Oh no, I lost it. Anyway, anybody else has questions? I'll give a couple of those some real fun answers about some of that weird shit that my character did.
Well, Rick, I will say my suit story is my wife and I lived that show and binged it back when when she was pregnant with our first child, my son, in 2016. And this was when it was my last year covering the Rangers. She's in the delivery room waiting for everything to start happening. And I am covering the Rangers playoff game against the Penguins from the hospital room as we're also watching Suits. So
that's awesome.
That show was a heartwarming and huge part of our lives. So thank you to give
us. I don't know how to even. I can't wrap my head around that. It's something that I had done that it has effect on other people, and it's still like I'm just a guy the goofy looking guy who decided to act, and now I got to be on a show that happened to be very, I guess, popular, which is hilarious.
Oh, you put a smile on our faces, and
it has many issues with, and obviously anger issues with sports. and needs to seek therapy.
No, this is awesome. Thank you so much again for being here. So we got Joey Killian, who pays in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Joey, for the support. He says, which one should the Giants do? Draft Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, or Jackson Dart? So draft one of those quarterbacks and sign a mentor quarterback with him, or draft a best player available, like an edge, a corner, sit and wait for a quarterback in the draft next year, and sign a Fields or Darnold. Rick, what do you think? Wait to draft, to go for the draft pick next year and, just keep building the team, or trade up for a guy like Shedeur, draft Shedeur number 3?
The problem is both the $5 million spend on Drew Lock is just, once again, what the hell was that? So we don't really even have, we don't have any quarterback, right? So we're really effed. I would normally say, even if we had like a give me anybody who's second string on any other team. I don't think we should sign Tyrod and then draft. However, and Tyrod would be fine if we built slow. He would be okay. He'd be better than any other scenario. But anyway, I mean, Joey, it's a good question. My answer, honestly, is I don't know, man. Like, I don't think there is one. It's like, it's just freaking rolling the dice here because of where we have been left by our management.
Yeah. And I would add to that, Joey, that I think the best thing for the team, now this is going to sound crazy because they really do. They don't have a single quarterback on the damn roster. I think the best thing for the team, Rick, is to draft like an Abdul Carter, like the defensive lineman, or trade back, get more picks and take a Mason Graham. Or like, for example, did they screw up not drafting Bo Nix? Probably. He wouldn't have been as good with Daboll as he was with Sean Payton. But the positive of the Malik Neighbors pick is at least you have a player who it feels like you could say, hey, 5 years from now, 3 to 4 years from now, this guy can help us if we keep adding better players, right? Like, whereas it's not always the case with the guys they take in the first round, like, Kayvon and Evan Neal aren't players like that. So if you take Malik Neighbors and you add Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, and then you also add, you sign some better players, and then next year you're drafting a quarterback, the team is probably better 2 years from now because of that, rather than forcing a Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders pick when they're not worth that. But here's the thing. Here's the kicker. How can this general manager and head coach go into this season, Rick, without a young quarterback to develop on the roster? They can't do it. Like, what are you going to trade for Derek Carr? Like,
oh no. I mean, could you,
you're speechless.
It's like being in a straitjacket. It's like being in a straitjacket. So you go one way and you can't get another. We have been tied up, and that's what Mara, for whatever reason, I don't know who told him. Maybe he decided on his own. Truly, I don't know, to stick with this bunch.
Yeah,
I don't know. But what was it that he saw where he was like, no, let's go this way. Yeah. And then he comes out in a press conference arrogant. He wasn't pissed. I don't even know if he apologized to the fans. It was as if there was like this don't fuck with me guy attitude. No, fuck you. No, fuck you for that attitude. You could have been a lot better in that press conference. I understand how everyone is feeling. This is, like, how about honesty? Like, say, look, let's face it. A lot of things failed, but I'm loyal. Even if he said that, I'm loyal. I have faith in these guys, and you're just going to have to trust me. Was that hard to say?
Right.
What was he doing? He was joking about Saquon's commercial because his ego was bruised. Fuck you, dude.
When he said right at the start, I know this isn't going to be popular, but right when he announced, like, I'm bringing them back, and I know this isn't going to be popular. That floored me. That kind of went under the radar, but it's exactly what you're just saying.
Yeah,
that was stunning because
I'm not taking it for ice cream.
It's like,
that's what it's like. I know this isn't going to be a popular decision, but we're not having ice cream tonight. Okay?
What shocked me was he is Wellington's son in a lot of ways. And the one way that you could always say definitively he is that, like, Wellington let the fans tell him, right? Like, yes, he was a football man and he made the decisions, but he understood when the public was sharing with him by their actions and their words, like, this is not acceptable. And John normally has walked in line with that attitude, that belief. Like, even when you saw that letter that got leaked that he sent to a season ticket holder, And he said, like, I feel your pain, those kind of things. I hear you. So for him to then come out publicly and essentially announce, yeah, I see the planes and I hear you guys and I know you don't like it, but we're going to do this anyway. That to me was like, whoa, like that, I lost kind of my compass for what they are now when I heard that.
Because he doesn't know. And that, this is, once again, when I say, hey, fuck you, dude, like we're talking from a football perspective. I don't, like I said, I'm sure this man is a wonderful family man and a smart guy. And he used to actually make a lot of choices where I feel like he had less traffic in his head with people. But somehow along the way, whatever it is, man, I've made these mistakes. I've made in different ways. It's not like I'm accusing of a guy of doing something that I'm not guilty of in the past. But I see you, man. You can't come out and go, well, we're not going to be happy about this. We're not having grilled cheese. Oh, I meant we're keeping everyone. And yeah, I don't care. I know I said I won't sleep. I'm sleeping pretty good. Saquon, you made a good commercial. Bye. Great press drop. I mean, that was it. That was a great press conference, John Mara.
And you're hitting something important, which is that, I mentioned the Titans thing earlier, the charade, and you're talking about the Mara press conference. These things are more transparent than they recognize, I think. And I think that obviously is worrisome in and of itself. But if he thinks that people like you and I and others in this chat here on Talkin Ball Live are not hearing that for what it is, then, then he's even more lost than we thought. Intel says, wonderful show. Thank you, Intel, for saying that. D Kit, loyal follower and listener and supporter, says, Pat, we need to take a swing at quarterback now. Enough with putting it off. We haven't drafted a quarterback in 6 years. We don't know whether they are worth it or not until we get them in here. Swing now. That's fair. A lot of Giants fans feel that way.
Sure. I mean, yeah, we can go that way too. I agree there as well, D-Kit. I sure, but D-Kit, then let's say that happens, right? Do you feel with a QB now, and a draft that you think that's gonna bring us to somewhat of a promised land in the next 3 years because of the QB pick? Or tell me what you think about what happens after that choice.
No, that's a great point. Yeah, D-Kid, let us know what you think about that. D-Kid also weighed in and said, so Rick and Pat, if I asked you how this Giants team wants to play, meaning are they run heavy, tough defense, or are they fierce pass rush, wide open offense? In other words, what is our team identity? What would you say? Are they trying to be run heavy, tough defense, or are they trying to be fierce pass rush and a wide open offense? Rick, what do you think about that?
What they are now?
Yeah, what they're trying to be. What is Joe Schoen trying to be?
What are they trying? What is Joe Schoen? That's my issue. Whether he says he knows, I don't believe him. And it shows on the field.
I think my answer to that,
I call it confusion, is what it is. Confusion. That's it.
They've drafted a wide receiver in the first, second, and third round in 3 years. They've drafted, that's Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, a guy they traded up for, and Malik Neighbors. They drafted 2 out of the 3 of them too high. He has made draft picks on the lines, but I think has also overlooked intangible issues or off-field flags, like in a guy like Thibodeau, taking him 5th overall, those types of things. I think he wants to be more. This was something I remember Brandon Dubinsky when he was shipped out of New York. He made a derogatory comment about how the Rangers wanted to be more flash and dash when they acquired more weapons. And, I think that's what Joe Schoen and the Giants and Brian Daboll want to be. I think they want to be flash and dash.
Problematic.
And
I don't mind flash and dash, but you need to have the trenches. to have to make that flash and dash work. There's no way around it. Tell me a team that makes it work without it. Who works without it?
No, they don't. In fact, the teams that, like a team like the Texans, who are a very good team, one of the reasons they end up bowing out, their O-line wasn't good enough, even though their D-line was good. The teams remaining, the Chiefs have a solid interior offensive line and the best quarterback in the sport. The Bills are tough. They don't have like the best player at every position, but physically tough. Their players are physically and mentally tough, like the Steelers. Yes. The Eagles, obviously best offensive line in football. And I know I bring them up a lot on here lately, but it's because they're retooling, and like the fact that they have done this with their line again before the Giants have done it even once. Like, this isn't the Eagles offensive line of 3 years ago. It's completely different for the most part, other than Lane Johnson. And it's because they've drafted better players. They've developed them better. They've coached them better, right? All that. And then the Commanders, another tough look for the Giants. You fire Bobby Johnson, your offensive line coach, like he's the problem. Now he's working with a unit in Washington that looked pretty damn good against the Detroit Lions, and they scored 45 points. So what's the problem, right? So D-Kid, that's great. Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and the Lions, I mean, had it not been for those awful injuries on defense, you know what I mean? It just shows like you need to have a well-balanced built team to really get there. That's just the way every team that's won a Super Bowl, they haven't had anything less. So when we're talking about like, flash and dash, I don't want to be the buzzkill, but it's like we don't have the big guys. We don't have those big, strong offensive linemen and defensive linemen. Why do I feel like it's like, hello, class. When you build a team, you start with the offensive line. I mean,
What kills me, Rick, is seeing, I know you can't do this with every pick and every round and all that, but like, the Ravens right tackle is a guy named Roger Rosengarten. And I met him at the Senior Bowl. Rick, I'm not kidding. I watched this guy play at one practice for 25 minutes at the Senior Bowl. And I was like, dog, right? Not amazing player. I wasn't saying like, oh, he'd be your right tackle for 15 years. I don't know that. But I could look at him, face certain types of pressures, stunts, how he moved, how nasty he was. And then I even interviewed him. And I'm like, yeah, I'd pick him. And the Ravens took him mid-round, and he's starting on one of the best offensive lines in football. Is he perfect? No. Sometimes the quarterback has to escape when you lose your block, right? So it's a team game. Right. But guys like him, guys like Daniel Falele was another mid-round pick that the Ravens took. He's basically built like a skyscraper. Every time he comes, they know what it looks. No,
they know what they are. They know what they are. And it's, like, oh man, it's to have, there's so many different, this is just my opinion. I want to hear others if they have other opinions. Do people think I'm wrong? Do people, I'd love to, because tell me if I'm missing something, because I'm not on here to, I want to be on here to have these thoughts.
Yeah.
And people responding to what my thoughts are. And, because you got to help me too, man. I'm going through it,
No doubt. No doubt.
Just all thinking right, in the meantime, keep pick them, but I'm just trying to think of, I once again had a good thought and it completely slipped my mind.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted you.
No.
All right. So yeah, reminder everybody, we are brought to you by MyBookie, Boom Chaga, and Estate 98 Coffee. Thank you for being here. We are here with the one and only Rick Hoffman, Suits, Billions, diehard and disgruntled Giants fan, sharing his thoughts on the franchise and love in its darkest times. All right. Tuto, who's a loyal listener and follower, says, respect to Big Boss Pat and all diehard Giants fans across the pond. Greetings from our entire Italian rugby national team in Italy. We say, forget about it. Salute, Tuto, my man. All right. So D-Kit,
comes in.
he's
Tuto,
always in here, always in here.
Yeah.
Rick, one of the people who have, like you, Tuto, D-Kit, everyone's in here, like, so grateful to everyone who has been so passionate to make this a community that is thriving, where we can have these types of conversations. It's awesome. All right. Yeah. So D-Kit says, so this was in response to, as we were talking earlier, he said, I'm not sure that Mara is of the mind to win at all costs. He likes the way the organization is running right now, but for win-losses, last thing he wants is to bring in a disruptor to have to change things. D-Kit also says, Rick, you have to do something different as the Giants. We wouldn't be having this conversation if we took a quarterback last draft. The idea of getting the pieces before the quarterback sounds good, but is actually a longer path, in my opinion.
I agree. It is. That's like, when you're told, hey, I don't know if you're watching TikTok, every once in a while it pops up, or somebody wise and he says, if you just tuck away an additional $500 a month, do you know by this year you'll have this much money? That's what you will. Who wants to do that though? No one. However, that's what the winning teams do. Nobody goes, let's get weapons. Oh, wait, we don't have anything. Like they take their time and they slowly, it takes, I would say, look, Pat, could you imagine Darius Slayton, the most reliable receiver the Giants have had in I don't know how long? They were thinking of trading him. Every great player leaves this team. That was not the way it used to be. Every player, once they leave the team, thrives. You're going to let go of Darius Slayton? What if we had, let's go flash 6 years back, and we just worked on what D-Kit is saying, would be a pain in the ass. But imagine those 6 years of strict, ugly picks, trench picks, and then great protection, great rush with a Slayton, Malik Neighbors, Saquon Barkley. I mean, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
But
it's like a force multiplier.
I mean, once again, I get that you can't always do but we need a maestro now. We don't need to give this guy another chance. It's a waste. He doesn't have it, in my opinion. I don't think he does. Because I've seen him. They unfortunately let us see him behind closed doors in Hard Knocks. He showed us who he was not impressed with his job. But that's my opinion.
No doubt. No, I agree. John says, Pat, screw those fans that harassed you. Rangers are beating the Flyers right now. And the minute John Mara fired Coach Coughlin, he has been cursed. I personally want the Giants to build the defensive line first. I miss seeing our D-line terrorizing quarterbacks.
Me too.
Yeah, John, what's interesting about that is that the Joe Shane's trade for Brian Burns, while a costly one, the idea behind it was, of course, to add more talent to the D-line. The interesting thing that they didn't account for, though, is that Thibodeau and Brian Burns, neither of them are very good run defenders. So these are guys who you've invested a lot of resources in, and they're not sacking the quarterback at a high enough rate to offset the weakness of your defensive front against the run. So you're ending up with a defensive line that isn't punishing people, and it's not getting the sacks to make you live with that and feel comfortable living with that. So there's been some investment there, but not enough. And also, in my mind, not appropriate, not to an appropriate level. Like, in other words, was Brian Burns worth that contract and that second round pick that robbed you of that corner when he wasn't a well-rounded player? So it's not just, hey, let's go get this player at this position and fill that gap. It's the value has to match what the player can do for you. The contract has to match what the player can do for you. And the fact of the matter is, Joe Shane's just not in a position right now. And I said this at the time when they made that trade. He wasn't in a position to give away that second round pick, in my opinion. Like, the roster needed too much to give that up. You got an extra second rounder for the Leonard Williams trade. You robbed your defensive line of a body and some toughness there by doing that. And then you use that pick and you overpay the guy. And listen, I like Brian Burns as a guy. And there are times where he can make some big splash plays. But I guess what I would say, I'm bringing this up, John, to say they've had this idea, but it's almost like they're not even when they have the right idea, they're not executing it properly. And I think that's what Rick is talking about too. It's like he just doesn't have a lot of trust for them to execute the plan correctly right now. All right. Let's see. We have Tuto says, Pat, easy solutions to all Giants problems. Please suit me up in Giants gear. I promise you there won't be any opposing teams, O-lines, or quarterbacks walking off the fields under their own power. I love it. Tuto, that's how we feel watching some of these games. That's how LT felt watching that team. He's like, let me out there, man. I'll at least force a punt or two. Let's see. D-Kid says you can do more things, more than one thing at once. Daring concept. Imagine, get the quarterback and build the trenches. You don't only need premium picks to do all that.
Right.
Well, true. Yeah. Go ahead, Rick.
No, just that, like I said, is Joe Shane the maestro to do both? That's all. Can he do what you're saying? I don't think, based on what I saw, I don't think he understands. That's all. I'm sorry, Pat.
No, that was good. No, that was good. Especially, I think one thing that's creeping up too right now, and listen, I hope that he stays healthy forever and that the injuries stop, but Andrew Thomas is the one guy you feel like you can count on as like the rock of this line that you haven't really been able to figure out. And he can't stay on the field. And you have a lot invested in that player. So, that's a concern too. Chris says you can continue to fix the line in free agency and the back end of the draft whoa. And still get your quarterback. If in a couple of years it doesn't work, draft a quarterback again. Chris, I would say about the back half of the draft thing, you can find some diamonds in the rough, but it's I would say mid rounds, back of the draft. You can't make that your plan. Like, in other words, take Marcus McKeithen a few years ago, right? The draft, they drafted Evan Neal, Josh Azudu, Marcus McKeithen. Wow, what an O-line draft for Joe Shane there. But you draft Marcus McKeithen in the 5th round, okay? And this doesn't just happen with the Giants, Rick. So, like, I'm not just saying this is Giants fans, but people start to get overly excited and overhype players when the organization pushes that these guys are starting to look good in camp. They're starting to look good in preseason games. The reality is your 5th round offensive lineman, guess what he is? He's a 5th round offensive lineman. And really, more often than not, like, it's almost dangerous for fans sometimes when they see a Brock Purdy or, even a Tyrone Tracy Jr., right? Good pick for the 5th round. But he's not, like, he doesn't fix the fact that you still need a running back. He is a good complement in a backfield. He's not a 1st round Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson. He's just not. And that's not a cut against him. But the way the Giants think is we got to win it.
See? It's like, we did the right thing with Saquon because we have Tyrone. No, that's not how that works. Right? Is that that's what you're saying?
That's exactly right.
That equals that.
Right. No, we fixed this position. We filled it. Look at how good our running back is. It's like, no. He's a part of what you're building. And listen, that's a good example of a player. If you can hit on a player who can contribute to your team in a positive way and is a great kid like Tyrone is, that's great. Like, give me 53 of them in all different spots. Now you're talking about a team, right?
That's right.
So that's the positive there. Let's see. Still going through our super chats here. Tuto says, Pat, please mark your calendars on Saturday, February 1st. Team Italy versus the Scots, 5:30 a.m. Eastern, and witness the O-line destroyer in action, keeping the hospitals busy all day. Please pray for my victims, mate. Tuto, I love it. Everybody, listen to that. 5:30 a.m. Eastern, Saturday, February 1st. You do hit on something, Tuto, that, and we've talked about this obviously tonight about the trenches and the O-line. But Rick, toughness, it's, all these guys who play football, they're tough. But not all of them, but, NFL football, you're playing NFL football.
Because once again,
yeah.
No, go.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, there's a difference between a big, strong O-lineman who is trying to play his position well and a nasty mother effer who is trying to put you in the dirt. And they don't have enough of those guys. They just don't. You don't need to hit on a 5-star, 10 out of 10 player with every pick. What you do need is to have guys at that position who make the other team dread playing against you. That's the best way I would say it.
That's what I grew up with. That's what that right there is what I grew up with. And I keep thinking, oh, maybe it's just not that way anymore. And then I watch other teams and I go, oh no, it doesn't. No, it exists. Just not here. Not here.
So we need 5 Tutos on the offensive line. Exactly is what I'm saying.
Tuto. Let's go. Tuto cutlets.
Vinny Cutlets, Rick Hoffman here in the house. All right. John says, I get the others saying the Giants need a quarterback, but the 2025 class is a strong defensive class. Take advantage of that and get a quarterback in 26 where better QBs are coming out that would be worth a top 5 pick. There's certainly an argument for that. I would just qualify, is this GM and head coach, are they going to be here for that? So that's the whole question of, do they throw the quote unquote Hail Mary, which was part of the press conference? Do they go and try to get their QB? Because is the best pick for the team long-term the best pick for them? And how does that work with self-preservation? That's the big question. All right, let's get to more questions here. Keep the conversation rolling.
In your opinion, Pat, do you think that do you think they'll be here after next year?
Well, Rick,
I know next year won't be anything. Next year won't be anything special, right? Maybe hopefully 7, 8, whatever. But do you think even with that? So then if you see they're moving up, but yet, do you think they're going to still be here?
I do not. But my asterisk to that, Rick, is I was thrown off so badly by them not making a single change off of a season like this that I don't know what gets somebody fired here anymore. Coming off of how poorly the coaching staff was run by Dable the year before, coming off of all the mistakes Shane has made, including how he deals with people like the agents and the players. Some of that came out.
The McLeod thing?
Yeah.
What was that?
Rick, that was a microcosm of the Saquon situation. If that makes any sense,
sure does.
That not the same quality player or anything. And I'm not saying Joe Shane said that quote to Saquon, but I am saying the element of the negotiations being made personal to a level that it created toxicity and it doesn't help your effort to the next time you have that conversation.
Yeah.
But you asked me the question, will they be here? I don't think so. I think if it goes poorly, especially at the beginning of the season, right away at the same level we've seen, you could see the coach fired mid-season. He was on the ropes this past season before they won that Cleveland game. There is a thought to the idea of if they draft a young QB and you see a sliver of progress, that keeping them at this juncture buys them 2 years because first of all, it pushes them through their full 5-year contracts. And also it's hey, we had you with Daniel Jones. It didn't work. we'll give you 2 years with Shador or 2 years with Cam. And then if you still don't have it going, you're out. The one element that is fascinating to me that I have to try to keep reporting out, when Adam Schefter reported that like out of nowhere tangent nugget on that Mara has complained about having to pay coaches their full contracts after they get fired and all the guaranteed money.
Yep.
That went like that kind of like blindsided me across the face. Not that conversation hasn't come up behind the scenes with sources and stuff, but for him to throw that out there told me somebody that isn't a Mara wanted that out. Now, is that from the Tisch family? Is that from someone in the Mara family who feels like John's not making the right decision? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But so I was the one who asked John that question in the press conference was, does money have anything to do with this? Because I had even had conversations with NFL sources before that.
Yeah.
Who said to me, if I swear, days before it happened, there were people saying to me, if they keep these guys right now, one of the major reasons will be they just don't want to pay another 2 people while they're paying them. So, you hear different comments from different people. That was one informed person's opinion. So that wasn't a fact. That was an opinion. But so all of that is to answer your question. That was a very long-winded answer.
No,
I'm better at asking them than answering them, but that's kind of the context.
I get it. And it's scary. Anyway, what you were going to ask them or somebody who was asking questions.
Yeah, let's see. John says, speaking of George Young, he used to speak occasionally on an upstate sports talk radio station in Albany. He was friends with the guy who ran it. He would talk to callers, and I used to ask questions. That's awesome. He says that would never happen today. GMs aren't like they used to be. George was gruff, but he was a funny guy. Wow.
I bet he was. See,
John, that's excellent.
Yeah, John, that's such a cool thing to now know, just because it just makes somebody like me feel like, I just didn't witness it by myself. It's just, like, so you're saying that they don't have people like that anymore. Is there? Well, Jerry Jones has no problem talking to, he talks to everybody. That guy. But yeah, I guess that's just not the way it's built anymore. How great would it be, like, if there's just a transparent guy managing a team? They make movies about it. Is it really that far fetched to be someone to take on a team? And I guess I'm dreaming.
No, I'm with you. Jackson says, great interview. Jets Commute says, great stuff, Pat. Undefined says, Pat, ask Rick what makes him turn his head more, watching the Giants or watching Hostel?
I couldn't, until doing that movie, Hostel, I couldn't watch a scary movie to save my life. And because I was able to sit in the makeup trailer with the woman who I blowtorched her eye out of her socket and watched how the makeup was done, it cured the phobia of watching scary movies. So I'm able to now watch marathons of slasher flicks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rick, I cannot, like, one of my best friend growing up, he loves horror movies. And so every once in a while I would end up like binging a marathon with him. And the only way I could get through it was laughing at the ridiculous parts, like the parts that were so out of pocket then he found humor in it. So then I would start laughing, but I would never in my wildest dreams sit in the room by myself and turn on one of those flicks. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It was, I had to test myself to see if it, and it worked. I was so thrilled. I was 34 when that happened. So imagine, Me not being able to watch 34 years a scary movie.
There
My
was
friends made
a there is one this just always comes to mind. I didn't even watch the movie, but there was a movie that was made I don't even know how long ago, maybe 10 years ago, called The Boy. And
Okay.
it's a horror movie about like a so the trailer is what I saw, and it is unbelievable. It's like they're talking, it's like this family in a house, and they're talking about their son and how you should talk to him and how he's so precious and this and that. And it's like some person being walked into a room to meet the son, and the door opens, and they're like, "This is our son, Brahms." And it's a doll. And they're like treating the doll like a real child. And it turns out
Right.
the doll is a haunted part of the house. Anyway, that stuff makes me giggle. I love it.
Oh, so this was not remotely like chills in the back of your spine creepy or anything. It was just like a
No,
ridiculous.
I'm sure the movie was like, the movie puts you in positions where you're like, holy shit, dude, I can't finish watching this. But the
Oh, okay.
trailer
Okay.
was like crying, laughing, like, what? It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
Let's
those I'm not
see.
sure I would even give a shot to watch. Doll. No, man, come on. Chucky's got it. That's it. Chucky takes the cake.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, let's see what everyone else has in here. Let's see. Captain Zero says they did much better drafting last year. As a fan, I have to hope that the 24 class wasn't a fluke, but a sign of competence in the scouting department. Captain, I think my opinion on the rookie class is that there is some good to it. But again, I think it is incorrect to put green check marks next to some of the players you're thinking about as hits. Like, for example, Daniel Bellinger, tight end. People consider him a hit. I do not. I think he is a piece that can maybe help you. I don't think he is your tight end. Like, you're not done at tight end.
Before the eye problem, or before
That's
he got poked in
Bellinger.
the eye, or after?
Yeah, right.
Bellinger, right?
Bellinger, right. Bellinger.
Is that what you just
right.
said? Is that
Oh, yeah. I said the wrong name. I meant Theo Johnson. Sorry.
Theo Johnson? Yeah. No. Got it.
That's me. Yeah. So Bellinger, obviously, no, we saw that coming. Like this year, him being de-emphasized. Good dude, but not the player. So they spend another mid-round pick on Theo Johnson. Thank you, Rick, for cleaning me up there.
Yeah.
And big guy, looks the part, but the hands, the footwork out there in space as a receiver, he has limitations. Now he can help you, but he needs to become a better blocker in order to serve that purpose. And the receiving looks like it is what it is right now. So you're not done at tight end. At safety, Tyler Nubin, Rick, I can't tell you how much all you and all the Giants fans there, how much you would love this kid if you talked to him for 5 minutes. Like he's awesome. I can see why someone would want them on their team and why the Giants drafted him. He didn't have a good year. Like 98 tackles does not mean he had a great year. He was taking bad angles to the ball a lot. He was late to the play a lot. You weren't getting those down in the box, stop the run from turning into a 17-yard run tackles from Julian Love and Xavier McKinney. You were seeing Tyler showing up a little bit late, or Jason Pinnock showing up just in time to tackle the guy after an 11 and 13-yard gain. So that rookie, maybe he blossoms into more. And they hired a safeties coach from the Jets, Marquand Manuel, who is a former safety himself. Maybe he can help Tyler kind of build. But this is all to say, in answer to Captain Zero, like maybe some building blocks, but I don't consider all of these players hits. I think they are works in progress. And I don't view this last draft as they finally got a draft right, especially because they didn't draft an offensive or defensive lineman in the whole damn thing. So,
and where are we with Banks? Is he a bust?
Rick, I think he has number 2 corner ceiling ability, which, listen, that's fine. If he becomes that, like if he becomes a little bit better than what he was at the end of his rookie year, and that becomes his steady play, excellent, right? Get him there. The
Okay.
issue is they drafted him to be a man corner. That's what he is. He's a man corner. And this last defense, the new system, the new structure, how he was used wasn't
Right.
great.
Right.
And then,
That,
I would,
by the way, right.
yeah,
That's just sorry. That leads me to fucking Wink Martindale. Like, I mean, it
yeah,
never ends. Like, why that guy? Another guy who talks from the hip, like a real giant. Like to me, he's that guy. I thought the defense was going somewhere with him. No,
yeah, it was.
yeah,
It was.
yeah, right. Why
Yes,
was he gone?
he is
Like
somebody
it's not just
who,
players, coaches. Mara. Yes, we should keep these guys. What the fuck? I'm just saying, like, because Martindale, that was the last of like we had like that was a rough and tumble coach, took no shit. I just loved his, you know what I mean? Like he had that, he knew the players he needed. He knew that, and now I talk with like I'm a child because I'm like regressing back to like hope. I need therapy, Pat.
that's what this is. This
Yeah,
is Giants therapy.
it
The
is.
you know what's interesting? You mentioned Martindale. When we started this conversation talking about, okay, so when the Giants have won Super Bowls, now you don't have to play now the way you played in the 1980s and in 2007 and that kind of thing. But the Giants' identity when they've had good teams, they've had a defensive coach who held people accountable, drew a hard line in the sand, told it like it was telling you things you didn't want to hear, but you needed to hear.
Yep.
And they built the team with that identity and those characteristics, right? And I think, like when I was bringing up like the Bills' tough offensive line and I was characterizing it, and you said like the Steelers. Why did you say like the Steelers? Because the Steelers know what they are.
I've
And they
always,
know.
always.
So, this is one thing that someone has brought up to me. Why don't the Giants look at themselves and say, how should we build a team that can beat the Cowboys, Eagles, and Commanders? Like,
But Pat, who are the Giants? Who are the Giants?
right.
Is it Mara? Because that I've already like. Is it Mara's people now? Like, or does that exist? People? Does he have people, or is he just by himself going? No, this is what I believe. Like, this is what I think. And I mean, what's going on? Like, what? Who is he listening to?
Yeah.
And if he's got people leaking shit, like you mentioned, might be a possibility about the money.
Yeah.
Right? You said if there's something
Yeah.
potentially you don't know. Well, wow, that sounds like it's a real foundation of solidity.
I know. Yeah, that came from somewhere. That Adam wouldn't throw that out. I mean, that came from somewhere. I mean, that's
Well, then we're really cooking with,
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Francis says your guest, Rick, has stated the problems well. Pat has helped us understand the problems. We all know what it is. It's a lack of front office leadership and organizational personnel dysfunction. Right. And Francis also notes Giants had a defense back then in the 80s. That was their quote identity. All those great players and coaches. Yes, exactly. And that's what Rick and I are hitting on right now, which is that you need an identity. It has to be who are we? And then how do we beat the teams that we need to beat in order to be a good team to make the playoffs and be sustainable? Let's see. Daniel says, Pat is a great and honest beat writer, covers the Giants, tells it like it is. Thanks, Pat. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Daniel. Two Giants goofballs says, oh my God, it's Louis Litt. Was a fan long before that show got so popular again on streaming. You are an awesome actor, says two giant.
Thank you, two giant goofballs. Thank you.
I love these names. I love when somebody has a great handle. I love shouting it out. It's amazing. Let's see. Daniel also says, Rick, you were spot on. Draft the bricks on both sides of the line. That's how you build a team that will control the point of attack. Lamar says, who you with? They need to pick up and a quarterback in free agency, take the best player available, trade back in the first round or second round, and get a kid from Alabama or Jackson Dart. That's what I would do. I would say I'm not big about the Alabama QB, Jalen Milroe.
Well, I don't know. I know his name. I mean, obviously, I've seen him a couple of times. Why? What's not so? What is it about him?
Just I've heard that he's not. You know how Jalen Hurts has the concerns or the limitations as a passer.
Yep.
And part of it's involved with how he sees the field. Part of it's with the mechanics and the throwing. Milroe is not even at Hurts's level on those things. Is how it's been described to me. Now he's a gamer. Sounds like a great kid, leader. Can make plays with his legs and has made some plays with his arms, but he has not been described to me as like a transformational player.
Dart or Milroe?
Milroe. Dart, I need to do more work on. I have to admit, I have to do more work on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, Lamar, we like that. I love everyone who has the ideas for like the fans who are sitting down saying like, listen, how can we get this done? That's what we're trying to do here for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Barbara says Tracy is not a foundational piece. Shane is just throwing darts at a wall. Yeah, what we were talking about just now with Rick reminded me of Mike Lombardi always says that he's now the GM of North Carolina football. Sounds funny to say general manager of a college team, but he often says that teams, and he uses this for play calling, but he'll say that they play battleship football. So in other words, like, a B7, right? And that they just pick a play rather than calling it situationally in a game plan. And I think that's sometimes, honestly, Joe Shane, who is a first-time general manager, which is something people forget. It's not like this guy has a track record of 10 years of drafts. Like he's learning on the fly right now. I do think there's a little bit of battleship football when it comes to their drafting strategy. I think it is need-based, and I think it's point and shoot, right? Hey, we let a safety go. Let's take a safety here. Hey, we let a running back go. Let's take a running back here. Hey, we need a receiver. Let's take a receiver here. It's like, guys, again, not to beat a dead horse, but what's your identity? What's the overall context and structure? And then build out from there. All right, let's see some more questions and comments here. Let's see. Francis says, I have a question for Rick. Does he know knowledge of or know stories about Giants players back in the day hanging out in bars near Fairfield, Connecticut?
No, I mean, I don't know any personal stories. Back then, there was no technology in the sense of finding out anything on any social media about what they did. You would never know anything about the players. You just watched them on Sunday. I didn't even know Lawrence Taylor had a cocaine problem until he retired, like way after. During the time, I just thought, even with this person, there was. I was a kid.
Yeah.
You don't know any of those things. So back in the day, oh, that's right, Francis. I'm sorry. I told you I was 94. No, not that old. But I was in my teens during that time. So I'm sorry, I can't give you any info.
Love it. E-Man Perry says Wink should have been the head coach. Kafka should have been offensive coordinator. E-Man, thanks for recentering me there, because Rick brought up Wink, and Rick, yeah, it's so crazy. Like Wink interviewed for the head coaching vacancy when Joe Judge got hired, and then becomes a defensive coordinator here. And yeah, I got off track when we brought that up earlier, but I'm glad we're getting back to it because what he understood was that as a Giant and in New York and in the NFL, you need to carry yourself and play a certain way. There was just a standard. And the interesting thing about him is like he profiled as a hard ass. Like if you looked at him on camera, it's like is he scowling like from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, right? Does this man smile? Look at the sleeves. He's menacing, but it's not a hard ass mentality. It's a down in, down out. How do I scheme my players in the best way so that they're successful and I get the strengths out of them? And frankly, Rick, I could tell you this for a fact. There were a lot of people in the Giants building not thrilled with his departure and questioning what the hell was going on there. Another reason why I said to you, I can't believe they retained them, because that was essentially a power play run by Dable and Shane there, with Dable firing Wink's top two lieutenants and Wink resigning on the spot a little bit after that, caught them off guard, and they cut off their nose to spite their face there. And unfortunately, he was the coach in the building at the highest level who really had a firm grasp of, this is the New York Giants and this is who we want to be.
Once again, he was last, really him, Saquon. They're gone. Whatever the Giant feeling was that I had for so long, and so many Giants fans, Wink and Saquon were the last really to go. Who was that? I mean, who else left after that? Did McKinney leave after? I mean, there's just so many players, dude. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It just, that we got the idea.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
Let's see. Chris wants to know, any chance we see Rick reprise his role as Louis Litt in the new Suits LA?
Well, even if I knew an answer to that, I would not tell you. But I would say this. They are having Harvey Gabriel Mock play in a few episodes in the first season. So I would assume never say never. But this cast of new actors needs to form their own chemistry before any of that is talked about. They need to have their own. That needs time. So I love the character and I love the people. So you never know.
That's a great question, Chris, and nice tease there, Rick. Rick, I would ask you a follow-up to that. When you were performing as Louis Litt and you guys were filming that show, did it feel as special to you as it has become for so many people? Like, were there moments while you're doing that where you say, like, wow, like this is it? Whether it's this is the role, or this is the group, or whatever. Like,
well, this is it. Kind of put me off the trail. So
maybe that was a wrong phrase to use, but I just mean, did it feel as special as it has become?
While doing it, it really, aside from personal issues, dealing with just life, the job itself during that decade felt like this is special. Yeah, for sure. From season to season, of course, as a family, we bonded, we were dysfunctional, but it was family, and we knew we had something, we were working together. You could see the enjoyment when watching that we had. That, that's part of the reason the show, I think, did well.
Totally.
Second time, it was the curiosity of obviously Megan, the second time, becoming a royal member, and rightfully so, and Megan doing a great job in the show, and then people actually watched the show and said, wait a minute, actually it's a decent show, it's pretty good. And then once it just spread. But we were like, well, yeah, Sarah, Gina, myself, were like, yeah, that's how we felt. All right. It took you a while, you not so much. You were an OG.
Yeah.
You
No, I hear that. Yeah, no, I hear that.
2016.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Um, another random question I have for you. I saw you on Henrik Lundqvist podcast,
Yep.
and it was a fantastic interview. Go check it out if you haven't watched it. What is it called? Club 30, I think it's called.
30.
Yeah, Hank, his hair still looks great. But I
Jesus.
covered Henrik from 2011-12 through 2015-16. So during that great run where they had the 3 conference championships and or appearances and the 1 Stanley Cup final appearance against the LA Kings, unforgettable.
Heartbreaking.
You're a diehard Rangers fan too?
Yeah. But I mean, like, it took me longer. I became a Rangers fan maybe like I want to say right in college, like 90, 91. Once again, slow build. Not as much as not like the Giants, but yeah, I mean, yeah. And then but where I grew up in New York, hockey, it wasn't as, for whatever reason, I was paying attention to the New York Arrows in soccer for a while.
Love it.
And I got distracted. So those real tough days of the Rangers, I will not claim that I was a part of that. A lot of my high
Yeah,
school
it's funny.
friends
I was mentioning earlier about getting crap from people about being from Philadelphia, and I was a crazy Flyers fan as a kid, and after covering the Rangers for those 5 years and going through so much with them, or feeling like I was a part of it in a small way,
yeah.
like I pull for them now. I pull for
Sure.
that team. I mean, they're not, Kreider's the only one still there from when I was covering them. He still owes me a free lunch, by the way. But
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's a good story. They had what happened. So all the players used to get Chipotle, and they like lived on it. And
Okay.
there was like a 2-week span where all the chicken at Chipotle had to be recalled. There was some kind of,
Yeah.
outbreak or something, whatever. And I wrote a story about it because the guys like it was like half of them had to find a new way to eat lunch every day. Like they had no other options,
No
And
Chipotle?
yeah, exactly. And I ended up writing it, and Dos Toros, I think it was called at the time, ended up seeing my story with Kreider and Dominic Moore and some of these other guys talking about it. And they ended up giving them like a bunch of free restaurant coupons and stuff to have lunch at their place instead. So Kreider had all these free lunches, and I was like, you owe me one. And I never saw it. So Kreids, if you're watching and listening, I'm still waiting on that lunch, man.
How long is he until he's back? I don't even want to. That's a whole other situation right now, although they're starting to play better again. So,
yeah, no, I don't know the answer to that. Not close enough. I got to text my guy Larry Brooks and find out. He's plugged in. Talk about OGs.
Yeah, I know.
All right, let's see. Astro Doc, Dr. Dave says, agree with everything you guys are saying 1,000%. I've been a fan since 1970. Until there is a change in ownership, we're totally out. Maybe I'll root for my wife's team, the Jets.
Oh, God.
Don't do that to yourself, Astro. Come on. Don't do that to yourself.
God. It's all over, dude.
Let's see. D Kid says, Rick, you were an unexpected great guest.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks. I'm not a big fan of watching. This, by the way, I don't know, Pat, what you think of this. I'm not a big fan of watching actors talk sports. So like when I'm watching, like I'm not, like I can't stand it. It almost like it's kind of nails on a chalkboard to me, because a lot of it, in my opinion, is very performative by them. It doesn't feel real to me when they're talking. They're like, "Don't mess with my Chiefs," and they have the shirt. I'm like, stop. Like, and I was a little pensive about doing this because I don't, I don't even consider myself an actor. I consider myself a sports fan who likes to act. So maybe that's
No,
why I felt like I should do this tonight.
no, I know exactly what you're
You know
saying.
what I mean?
You watch people and it feels like a performance more so than a genuine
Being a
conversation.
real, yeah,
Yeah, no, and
yeah,
that's it means a lot to me that you think enough of what I'm doing and my work in this show to be here because um I said it earlier, but I'll say it again, like there's just a lot of times you doubt yourself, not in the sense like that you think you're wrong, but it just becomes tough to swim upstream all the time, you
of
know?
course.
And so the support and the reinforcement, and it's support not only in you participating and then being here as a guest, but also the support of the reinforcement of you seeing the same things I see and you calling
Yeah.
it like you see it, and us trying to diagnose what's wrong and why it's wrong and why it needs to be better and how it can be better. It helps me. It's therapy for me too. I
Well,
guess is what I'm saying.
hey man, anytime you need a left or right hand, I'll try to control my temper and not say things to John Mara like what I did. Now I'm going to feel very bad about that.
No, actually, Rick, I
He's a very
saw.
nice man.
Okay, yeah. Oh, no, you qualified that though too. You said these are not personal comments. This is just a comment on the professional nature of how this franchise is operating.
It's
If
true.
everyone's Pat Hanlon watching, listening, right? Um,
Right.
so yeah, exactly. So no, I was gonna say though, the one thing I did notice somebody point out that they thought was funny
Mm.
was that you were shooting strays at the other at members of the media for simping on Dable as Dave's, that
I don't
resonated with people,
did it
with some people
in a
on
bad
here.
way,
Yeah.
in a
No,
bad or
them
good way.
just no, them just laughing, saying that you were pointing it out.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is I don't know what they look like. I don't know who they are. I just hear them in the press conference. I know I hear your voice. It's the only voice that's like lower pitched, and like then they have a fucking scared look on their face when they're being asked the question. I'm like, oh, that's Pat.
You see that? You see that in their face?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, because all the rest, because all the rest, Dave's. Hey, Dave's guy, smelly armpit guy who has a really good column in the this newspaper, and just ultimately doesn't really have any self awareness. Okay, Dave's, thanks. Oh no, Dave's, it's all right. 3 and 16 is fine, Dave's.
We need to. We,
Oh
we need to do
wait,
a.
Dave's, wait a second, Dave's. When you first got here, Dave's, and you made all those statements about you're not gonna, you're gonna be very open and transparent, Dave's, and then the whole fucking season you were the opposite. Oh yeah, Dave's, good job.
You know what was really interesting? On the final day, breakup day. So we talked about Mara's presser. Dayball's presser with us on breakup day when it was announced that they were retaining them. Rick, he was, as K-Mac laughs about the Dayball thing, he was antagonistic, and it was almost like he was looking at everybody saying, yeah, what? I'm back. Like, this is now not going to be easy on any of us or any of you. Right. It was, I don't want to use the word vindictive, but it was like an announcement to us without
Mm,
him saying it implicitly.
right.
Like now this is going to be even harder on you because I know most of you thought I should not be back. And guess what? I am.
Yeah. I'm so
Is it
glad you were able to.
uncomfortable?
Yeah, I felt it. I saw it. It was painful to watch it because, and you have a different opinion, I think, than I do about Joe Judge. I think it was just as embarrassing with the way because that's once again, Pat, it's not, look, we get it. There was some fuck ups by your GM that caused you to be in this pickle. Okay, yeah. But at least in a press conference, don't be a dick. We know you are one because Wink Martindale, you rubbed up against him, the last of the real voices of the team, and fuck that relationship up, Dabes. Hey, Dabes, what happened? Tough call. Got to look at the tape. Got to look. The tape. Got to look at the tape. How about when you do the initial press conference and you welcome in as the Giants coach, you go, so I'm going to just tell you every time I'm going to look at the tape. So let's get that out of the way. I'm just going to say that every press conference instead of the bullshit that I fed you when I got everybody excited.
Yeah. And that's, as a reporter, Rick, like, I know that, again, I'm just one person and it's like, I'm not right about everything, but I do view my role in a climate where a lot of voices, including leadership voices, are projecting, whether you want to call it lies or misleading facts, or they're concealing things or not answering things and being difficult. I do view my role as holding the people in power accountable. And that that could mean just verifying what they're saying to be true. It could mean reporting on an element of a certain game plan that they said this was what happened, and it really turns out it was this person's fault. It could even be related to credit and be a positive story that enlightens people that, no, it wasn't just Malik Neighbors. It was also Wan'Dale Robinson. But I do view my role as enlighten people, but also hold the organization accountable, because there's too much, hey, patting each other on the back, everything's good, and let's not let the people on the outside know exactly what's going on here. And let's just let's tell each other internally everything's okay when it's not. So accountability, I think, is important. I guess that's what I'm saying. Brett says, I like this dude, meaning Rick. Wink comes back next year. Wow. Brett is predicting that Wink will be hired as the head coach next year when Dable and Shane get fired. Brett, I don't know what odds you could find in Vegas for that one, but they'd be,
your lips to God's ears,
wild.
Brett. I hope you're right, Brett.
Johnny, thanks for the super chat. He says, hi, Pat. Hey, Rick. I knew there was a reason that Louis Liu was my favorite character on Suits. When is Rick going to admit he was the one behind the planes flying over MetLife? I've been waiting all night. Love this stream. Thanks, Johnny.
My messages would have been a lot different.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hoffman. No expletives are allowed in the New Jersey skies. Could you maybe shorten that with an apostrophe?
No. What are you talking about, Pat? My sign was going to be, hey, you guys aren't going to, what was the thing that Mara said in the beginning of the press conference?
I know this isn't going to be popular.
Yeah, Mr. Mara, this isn't going to be popular, but I'd really appreciate it if you, maybe like just change something, or, whatever. You can keep Dave's.
Run it back, 2025. Rick. Love Rick. Oh, I love it. Rick, this has been so much fun, man. We've gone 2 hours here. I appreciate all your time. Just want to remind our viewers and listeners real quick, we are brought to you here by MyBookie, Boom Chaga, and Estate 98. MyBookie is mybookie.ag. The promo code is Pat's Picks. You'll get 50% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, all the way up to $1,000, plus a $10 casino chip. Boom Chaga, it's right on your screen. Boomchaga.com. It's Talkin Ball 25 is the code, or use that QR code and you'll get 25% off your first order on the subscribe and save option. I think you'll love the product. Go check it out now. You don't have to stay subscribed if you don't want to. There's no harm in canceling after that first order. I don't think you will cancel, though. I think you'll like it. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com and Estate 98 coffee. It's estate98.com/Talkin Ball for an exclusive 80% off your first order. Rick Hoffman, thank you so much for being here. Any final words, anything I didn't address that you wanted to get in before we hang up here?
I just don't want, when you're swimming that uphill stream, Pat, I want you not to get discouraged, and I want you to continue to do this, because otherwise I may have to literally, I don't know, potentially, I can't even say it, but maybe join one of the other people that paid and become a Jets fan. I mean, I am wearing green.
I was going to say, don't say go to the Jets, and you said it.
I mean, I will forever, there will never be a day that I'm not a Giants fan, and I will bring my son to these awful games, but I will not tell him it's a football game. I'll just tell him it's Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus. Pat, you are a genius at what you do, and I'm so flattered you had me on, to even think of having me on. I appreciate you having me just vent, and any other time you want, and maybe next year, maybe it's a better year. Let's hope for a better year.
I can't wait. I would love it. It is my honor to have you. And as I'm a fan says, awesome chat, Pat. Rick, you got to come back and chat again. So hopefully,
I promise I will not scare you the next time with the animal that is on my face, or whatever the redness that was happening earlier on that scared the shit out of me. But anyway, I promise it'll look a lot less scary.
Awesome. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This was an awesome and special episode of Talkin Ball live with Pat Leonard. We'll see you next time. Signing off.